Welcome to this quantum conversation. I am so happy that you could be with us today. We are here with Sandra Walter, and I thank everyone for your patience as we gather in this space today. We are talking about creating peace. And in our world, especially here in 2020, this magnificent year of great change, creating peace means we adapt in the face of everything with calmness, with higher connection to self. And my guest, Sandra Walter, really needs no introduction, but I do want to say, welcome this beautiful soul in for all of us to enjoy today. Sandra, welcome, girlfriend.
Oh, blessing, sister. It's such an honor to be with everyone in this now moment, in this very exciting passage of our ascension process. It's really quite wonderful. And thank you to everyone for your patience with the technical issues. Thank you.
Yes, and we hope that everyone can hear perfectly. You should see the setup that we have here on this live stream, but that's part of the adaptation that I was speaking of. So Sandra, welcome to the show. My goodness, let's catch up since we've last met. This summer and this fall, we've just seen incredible shifts. Give us an update.
Oh my goodness. One of the key things that I would love everyone to be aware of was this recoding of the sun that occurred over the summer. Because if you're familiar with how that solar entity works, it provides the prism through which we project into these realities. And when there's going to be a reality shift or shift in perception, the sun gets recoded. And this is something that gatekeepers and grid workers were working on this summer. And I know that's a kind of few and far between in the tribe as far as being aware of that fractal of the light tribe. But it was very strong. You'll notice not the changes in the brilliance of the sun, because that's been going on for a while, but you'll notice a distinct change in the frequency. There are really strong crystalline Christed frequencies coming into these realms now, which allow us to project into these realities in a completely different way. Now, that also affects magnetics. Our magnetosphere is quite thin right now because that's the way that the new light gets in. It releases the veils, the magnetic veils, getting very thin. And all of this has been this preparation for what's happening in this last quarter of 2020. So the exciting conclusion, right? All of us are focused on the now and what's happening now. And those crystalline frequencies are starting to shift our perception. And again, that's your free will, whether you want to engage with that or not. But I've noticed a lot of folks in the high vibe tribe and in my circles and in my classes having these unique experiences of no veils, of stronger frequencies coming through the heart, of divine love and divine neutrality, just overwhelming their experience. And on the equinox back in September, this great balancing light came in. Again, part of the function, part of the preparation for what's coming in December, what's trickling into our fields right now. But this great balancing activity brought the reunification of all of the chakra systems into the ascension column, the tree of life activations. And we started seeing it. We started seeing it as like, wow, I have been recoded and prepared for this next level of divine perception that's starting to trickle in. So we're getting a purified taste of unity consciousness, Christ consciousness, crystalline consciousness, that has been promised by Gaia herself, as well as the higher realms, to be a palpable experience this year, revealing, revelation, revelation, revelation. And of course, we focus on self-realization and that inner activation as the ultimate revelation, right? Is the source and self as no longer separate, but as being unified, so that we can be stronger conduits of that frequency in these realms. So there's been tremendous shifts going on. I know the external reality is continuing to reflect the chaotic upheaval and revelation of everything that everyone has going on, and the fields, the collective fields, have been quite stimulated by the energy in order to shake loose all of the old energy and reveal that people had to make choices of experience. And as someone who's dedicated to peace and creating peace, I felt like, especially during this passage, as we prepare for this new light, that our focus should be completely on that dedication to peace and using divine neutrality as a way through this, as a way to interpret the energies and not be swayed into polarities as the timelines sort themselves out and choices of experience sort themselves out. You know, we all end up in the same place, but it's quite a show during 2020 for everything that's been caught in the collective subconscious to be revealed, examined, decisions made, realms and realities thrown away. Some of them cling to until the bitter end. You know, it's quite dramatic.
Oh, yes. It's getting kind of hectic. It's getting kind of hectic. You know, there's that song, but I love it because you and I spoke actually. And, you know, here we are in this election year where there's a lot of polarization, but the dedication to peace is the eye on the prize. New Earth is the eye on the prize, solutions and inspiration. And so thank you for sharing your dedication to peace. I know that even on very personal levels, so much is shifting as well. And it does come down to these individual choices, doesn't it?
It does. You know, it's individual as well as collective. So it is both. You know, we're all part of the same thing. The thing that I was that is most helpful for me in kind of navigating these energies and steering through the flotsam of the old kind of being revealed and kicking around and kind of swimming in this sea of of all the old stuff in order to get to the new. I discovered that quality of divine neutrality, and if anybody isn't familiar with that, divine neutrality is a term and a way of being that
Yes.
reflected the trinitized beingness that came to me back in 2012. And it was something that I've been teaching consistently. And just to clarify, divine neutrality isn't about hanging back and not doing anything. It's a balance in the heart where you're not swayed into fighting for one side, fighting for the other side, but actually seeing from the God perspective. You pull back to that quality of unconditional love that is neutral, that loves everything, that permeates everything. It's a real divine mother quality, but it also has that divine masculine quality of divine will as well. What's in the highest interest of all concerned, so that you could back away from the fray and be able to make better decisions, to come up with solutions, to not fight for one side or the other. It was, all right, and again, this completely depends on what you decide, what you choose, your purpose and your ascension process is all about. So for some people, it is about the fight. And you can see that, it comes to the forefront. And of course, the energies are amplifying everything right now. So a simple thought becomes a amplified shout. A simple emotion becomes an overblown outburst. That's just the nature of the amplification of the energies. And we can see many examples of that, I'm sure, sister.
Yes. All right. Well, I would like to say, sharing with folks, yesterday seemed very interesting. Do you have any intel about yesterday? We even have someone in our Zoom room saying that it seemed like a complete shift on the 19th of October, which was yesterday.
Yes, well, we're in a shift week. This whole week since 2 days ago was a very powerful shift week. And for just from a higher perspective, yes, we had flares. We have flaring activity, which this is the first year we've had flaring activity. This is the first year we've had flaring activity. It was predicted for this year, return of the solar influxes, right? So now you're getting direct hits. You had an Earth-facing sunspot. You had magnetic anomalies yet again. You've got a stimulation of the grid systems. You've got a stimulation of the core. The Schumann went, increased on Sunday. There was a whole lot of energy released from the field. And everyone should be aware that what we call photonic light, that source encoded light, is becoming more intense because we're coming into a bandwidth, a frequency that has, and now that the sun is recoded, it's sending those pure frequencies, because we're ready for it, into the collective consciousness, into the realms of Gaia, into the grids, into the gateways. Everything is releasing, because Gaia has promised a strong amount of revelation this year, which includes this beautiful frequency coming through the sun, which a lot of people have referred to as solar flashing activity, because the solar flash is not one event, it's consistent. And they actually have described on spaceweather.com the sunspot that's facing us right now as flashing, not flaring, but flashing, which I found really interesting. And I guess it's a term that they have used before, so it's nothing new. But all of a sudden, that when it presents in the field and they use the same language, it's like there it is, confirmation.
Yeah.
So there is this flickering sensation, and if you go out, and connect with the sun and charge your light body, it feels like little diamond particles coming into your body. If you've got the crystalline structures and that crystalline DNA structure, you'll feel it. It's not just a tingling, it's very potent. It will feel like diamond light codes. And it's a sensation, not just a visual or a harmonic. Like you can feel it like just popping through your body, popping off these codes and activating us in a new way. So yeah, there's a lot going on this particular week when it comes to these crystalline frequencies. So yeah, and we're all just holding this balance. And that's the thing about being a peacemaker and a peacekeeper, and really getting into this balancing energy. And the balancing energy, just because it was such a global activation on the equinox, and so many people felt it. We had a live group here in Sedona, and we're like, oh my gosh, it just was so palpable, and you just felt like all the old realities and old attachments just, and they just go away. And this is the interesting thing
Ah.
about the like timeline drop off too, those lower timelines. And if you've paid attention to the material about, division of timelines, the whole point of this splintering off of lower realities is that they would, those lower timelines based on duality just don't have any gas anymore. There's nothing supporting them. So they divide off and drop away. So the collective, what's happening in the collective right now is like, oh my gosh, that old reality is not there anymore. And if you're not awake, you deal with it in a very different way. But if you are awake, you deal with it in this with this balance. You feel like that lower reality, those lower realms, lower stories, narratives going away, because the inevitable higher Christed primary timeline of ascension has been an inevitability since 2012. Some would say since 1987, but we've been, there's been a lot of, highest choice, highest interest, highest choice, highest interest. So the path to get to that has been consistently shifts, depending on collective highest good. And it still does the collective highest good thing. So literally, the way showers, the light workers, the awakened ones, those on the ascension path, are choosing from that place of unconditional love and divine neutrality, what's the highest way this can unfold? What do we still need to reveal on a collective level in order to dissolve it and transcend it and transmute it? So when you have a lot of people agreeing to certain realities playing out in the collective, then it has to play out somehow. Like if people are still keeping a creation going with their own words, their own thoughts, their emotions in the collective consciousness, it has to play out in a certain way. So the higher vibrational collective, again, we're all one. It's just like a bandwidth of collective humanity, is following that divine human impulse, that divine God impulse, and going, okay, what's the highest good? What's the highest thing that can happen? And what can we, how can we provide solutions in the easiest way through this for everyone? And the beautiful thing right now is we're really getting into seeing, witnessing what unity consciousness is capable of. So that's a big part of the revelation now. And as someone who has led global unity meditations every Sunday for 4.5 years now, we've learned a lot about what unity consciousness really means, how practicing it and dedication and consistency builds strength, builds that connection. We've become very strong frequency and space holders. There's a gatekeeper and grid worker collective that holds that space. Sunday holds that field, and we've become clearer and stronger and stronger amplifiers of that frequency, that crystalline Christed frequency, and sending it out into the field. And of course, anytime you send something out into the field, it returns to you as amplified intent, as an amplified frequency. And it's beautiful to practice that with this intention of peace, of holding peace and unconditional love as the highest frequency of God in these realms. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does make sense. And Sandra, I'm wondering if now we could really take an inward journey and focus on this divine neutrality and this feeling this great love vibration, this unity consciousness, as we are inspired by solutions or just that higher self agenda, right? Focusing on the higher self agenda. I know so many are really wanting to make that a stronger connection.
Yes, absolutely. Let's just go through a really very, very simple way of actually feeling what you're sending out and how it comes back to you.
Beautiful.
And you can feel your own light quotient. You can check in on your own light quotient. You can check in on your own God perception. You can check in on the way that you feel and send out light. And this is a beautiful way to transmute energies too. So first of all, let's just get into that feeling state. So drop into the heart, take a breath. Just fill your heart with that divine radiance. You're familiar with the Christed frequency, crystalline frequency, diamond, solar energy. Fill your heart. And then open your ascension column. And let's just go connecting with the I Am presence and viewing now from the I Am presence. That is you, higher version of you. And from the consciousness of the I Am presence, let's just direct pure light, pure source qualified light, pure God light, unconditional love, radiance, down into the lower self, right through the heart. So right through your grounded version of self. From the I Am presence, directing this light down and amplifying your heart. Golden, crystalline, solar, diamond light. Amplify that light as unconditional love. And now let's send it out to all of creation. Expand it out to all of creation. Blessing. Just let the light do the work. Divine will, divine light, divine love. Being that radiance. Sending out to all of your worlds, all that you have created, all of the external. I love you. I bless you. And now, reconnecting right through the heart center. And feel that full radiance coming back to you. That radiating quality of divine love. Really let it merge, unify the I Am presence and lower self as one. Unifying with pure source, God, infinite creator beingness, Mother, Father, God. Unifying the paradise sons and daughters of God. All is one. All is love. Command peace, harmony, balance, ascension. Beautiful. Now holding that frequency in the heart, and just coming back into conscious awareness, take a breath. Holding that quality of the Christed frequency in the heart. And for those of you who are feeling maybe when you get a little too much external influence, or there's too much distortion, or you've been watching the news and all of that, anything that comes into your field that it feels irritating, or like it's knocking you off your game, or like it's making you feel out of balance, just call it in front of you, calling in any of that external energy, anything that's negative or distorted or that you just don't want to play with. And with complete divine neutrality, complete unconditional love, just wrap it in a sphere of that Christ light. Don't judge it. And with that Christed light, just transmute it. Allow the light to bless it and fill it with unconditional love. No judgment, acting as a conduit of God, of Source in this now moment. Allow the light to love it back into harmony, back into balance, or whatever it needs to be. And then gently send it back to its creator, blessed as pure light, as pure love. Absolutely no malice, absolutely no judgment, absolutely no polarization. Just release it. Back to its creator, back to its sender, as amplified pure light. Beautiful. And just releasing it. And then calling back in your heart radiance, radiating, amplifying that divine quality, balance, harmony, grace. Take a breath. So it is, calling back all of your energy, purified and divinitized. And really feeling that creator state of consciousness, complete unification, complete balance, complete peace. Totally available to every willing heart on the planet right now. Divine beingness. And just send out that love to all of creation, to all of your fields, all of your space, radiating that pure light. So it is. Claim that as your creation. I am the divine presence of Source in these realms. So it is.
So it is.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. That is this vibration, this frequency that is so pure and loving and harmonious. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And I want to take note that when we do this on Sundays as a collective, that unified meditation, we've been playing with, and this is kind of a fun evolution of when we get together in the physical. We've begun playing with harmonics, and the kind of natural thing that comes through when we meditate. Probably we get usually about halfway through the unity meditation, and then this wave of harmonics and light language starts coming through. It's like a natural organic thing that happens when we all get together, and we start singing and toning and light language and harmonics, and it comes through all of the fractals in the circle in different ways, but we find this beautiful unified harmonic this unified expression of the energy starts coming through, and the ground feels electric and wavy, and it's just this beautiful next level where you're really getting a taste of that new earth consciousness, and working with new earth consciousness to amplify that, again, that quality of unconditional love. And then naturally it's sent out through everybody who's participating, no matter where they are, if they're in the physical with us or uh, on the other side of the planet. It does not matter. There's no time space in that frequency, in that bandwidth. And it's really beautiful to kind of play with that. Of course, our telepathic communication and visions have been unified as well. We see the same visions, we have the same sensations. We're improving our telepathic communication, which was one of the um, beautiful intentions when the unity meditations began years ago. Was it's going to improve your telepathic communication, because there will come a time when you cannot get together. And here we are in this year where, a lot of us can't get together in the physical, and it's there. That field is there. We're like, oh, we can feel and create without the need for technology or being together in the physical. So the unity meditations have always happened offline on purpose, so that you would build that organic connection, that organic unity consciousness. And it's really beautiful to see the natural progression of us practicing that and playing with it for so many years. So it's just lovely.
Yes. And so, when we can tune in anytime on that day, I know you've got specific times on Sundays, but even if one is to tune in anytime during the day, as you said, Sandra, it is palpable. I'm glad that you mentioned the toning, because what's very interesting is today I was thinking about that one of your meetings and gatherings with the toning, the organic toning that came out. And what I saw today is that uh, each of us can add our tone and can add our harmonic. And even though we are not all unmuted, right, or in the same group, we're adding that with our intention to our collective. And then I saw how it's literally creating that new geometric, the new image. It's like when we shift in cymatics, for those who are familiar with that, when you change the tone, it gets chaotic, and it really feels like we're in that chaos right now. But as the light holders and the light workers and the light bringers add their tone, add their harmonic to this collective, it truly is as if we're toning or singing in or light languaging in that new frequency.
Yes, absolutely. Because our light signatures are being purified. So you have a unique harmonic, a unique frequency in the universe. That's how we find each other. That's how you express that this any kind of separation from source. That's how source can find you, right? Keeps track of you. But our light signatures too are taking on a complexity, the multidimensional complexity of that new harmonic. And it's not just new earth, it's this purified, Christed, multidimensional geometry expressed through sound, through light. It's all this harmonics and frequencies that are that are becoming stronger because we've anchored the crystalline structures. The goal is to go into the Christed body, the crystalline light body. And that, some people refer to it as the rainbow body, but I feel that's I feel we need to toss that term away. It's what it's doing is it's providing the container for new experience through the physical, or the a little bit less dense physical, more and more less dense as we go through this process. But because we have these crystalline structures within us, and for those of you who have the very visible experience of crystals coming through your skin, or the sheen, it goes from that sparkly, that god glitter, to this unified sheen. And then the next step is bioluminescence. But we're seeing it affect the physical. So, of course, the frequency is going to change. Of course, the harmonics are going to take over. You know, those new harmonics are starting to come in. And again, it's the symphony of all these different fractals that creates the experience of unity consciousness in these realms. So when we truly have our heart frequency, the heart coherence, blasting our pure light signature, then of course you're going to be a better conduit of the Christed frequency, and you're going to be able to create with other fractals of source that are all around you, the new realms, and again get into kind of reclaiming our skills in the way that we used to create with sound and purified intent. So I've noticed some very unique experiences when we play with that. You know, a lot of us hang out after the in-person unity meditations, kind of playing with crystals and playing with viewing, and we've been getting into some really beautiful things, especially with some of the sisters here in Sedona. We're playing with different ways of viewing inner earth and connecting with that in the higher realms, and it's just really fun. And the more that we play with that and feel it and have that experience, the more you're going to trust your higher skills, the more you're going to trust those new sacred skills that are coming into our field again, where we're like, I know how to communicate with that mineral, that crystal, that code, that ancient structure. And we've certainly had enough practice through all these years of gate work and grid work to be able to connect with the organic kingdoms and elementals, and everything, plants, animals, elementals, in that purified way, where you're really connecting with the realms of Gaia and the realms of creation and geometry way beyond platonic solids or sacred geometry. You're just seeing that higher realms going, yes, what else would you like? Again, sending out that energy. And when it comes back, it's this let me show you everything, Gaia too, like, let me show you everything that's going on here. And it just keeps expanding. So when you keep your focus on that exploration of the new and solution-based creativity, it changes your perspective, and then you'll be resonating, vibrating with the incoming light that's providing these reality shifts, these shifts in collective perception. And you'll be fully prepared to bring on these higher energies, which a lot of you are feeling already. We're in the hot zone. We're in the hot zone of that gate, if you want to call it that. It's a frequent, we're literally like running into it, and the sun is going to broadcast it in a different way. So it's just very exciting. So if you keep your heart open and your eyes on the prize, your heart on the prize, it's a different experience. You won't get so entangled in what's going on, and he said, she said, and this guy and that guy. It's like, oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so much revelation going on. It's like, don't, and it's where you put your faith too. If you put your faith in source and unconditional love, and
Yeah.
it's a different experience.
Well, it's very interesting because here we are, right, moving into this final quarter of 2020. And, I think we talked about this last year in December. We heard that by 2020, December 21, we will be fully in, well, the planet herself will be in unity consciousness. And so we're all getting that wake up, shake up call to really be there in it. And I found it quite interesting that on December 21st, astrologically, we are at 1 degrees Aquarius. So it really is like that full on 0 point of the Aquarian age. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and we've been promised that it's going to be a palpable experience for all willing hearts. And
Willing
And
hearts.
the other thing I want to take note of is, as you increase your vibration and expand your perception and become aligned with that self-realization level, where you've gone just beyond embodiment to the frequency, and now you're becoming like a purified conduit of that frequency, and really just surrendering, letting go of the lower self. You know, it's a tremendous act of faith to surrender the lower self to complete transformation and transfiguration. And that's been the process. You know, it's all the work that you front load all the getting rid of the shadow and all that other stuff, all the the transformation of the lower self, so that you can get to the point where you surrender it completely and become something new. And for a lot of us, we're like, oh my gosh, there it's right there. The becoming, the becoming, the becoming. And it's not, it's it's not a one day thing, but I know from my experience and from the consistent unfoldment of the quite accurate predictions for what was happening this year, that final step, that revelation and that energy coming right through the sun is going to transform many of us as far as a completely different perspective on reality, on our own reality, on our own heart, on our own beingness. Just a complete reunification with that higher self level, the I am presence level. It's this divine gift that Gaia is saying, okay, there's a lot of you who are ready. The thing about that is that kind of frequency has, because we are all one, that kind of frequency being held and conducted through all those willing hearts and everybody who has like a close enough match to have that experience and doesn't disqualify it with their own thoughts and their own emotions and their own fears. For the people who can really hold that, we know there is a collective activation of the collective divine human genome. We know there's a collective layer of the unified heart field. All hearts were fully activated back in 2011 on the 11-11-11. Christed frequency came back to all human hearts. So we know there's an aspect of all of us that is unified, right? There's only one of us here. And when you bring in that higher vibration, it is going to shake, transform, and absorb the lower frequency, just like a giant magnet would do to a lower magnet. You see that in science, right? The big, stronger magnet holding that higher frequency changes the lower magnet, and then it absorbs it. And the same with physics. Higher vibration shakes the lower vibration, changes it, and then it absorbs it. So I feel like this great absorbing activity of raising, resurrecting, revealing, that frequency is going to play out in a very palpable way and just ripple through the collective consciousness. I really see it. And whether it takes 3 days or 3 years, or 30, that doesn't matter. You know, time is what it is, but our linear experience is changing, and the collective experience has been shaken loose by this higher frequency all year long. And you can, judge the instruments by which people created what's going on right now. That does not matter. The higher thing is what we're calling into play right now. So I feel like it's going to be quite intense and beautiful for many of us. But we need to realize that if we're going to volunteer to become that frequency and really reunify with all aspects of our God self, our creator state of beingness, that we're going to have to pay attention, drop any attachment to distortion, continually transmute anything by way of that Christed frequency. Again, you got to work with it. Practice, practice, practice builds that strength. It's like a muscle, your dedication and consistency to build that field so that you can then become that container for that divine light and radiate it out. But we're really going to have to pay attention. And I know that my higher levels, my oversoul level is giving this like divine decree across my life stream, like, thou shalt not do anything, between December and mid-January. Like I don't, and it's like, okay, it'd be really nice to get people together, blah, blah, blah. They're like, no.
I was just going to say.
It is what it is. And I feel, and I've wanted that too, and I always create that space around solstice time, because that is the strongest passage for receiving those divine influxes and resurrection frequencies and up leveling of the path and the consciousness. But this year is just like everything's getting again a full stop. If you've heard me talk about that full stop, it's like, this is it. It's going to feel like time completely collapses. Everything will be gone. And I got a taste of that during that solar flash experience last solstice, day after solstice, day before solstice, can't remember, during those 3 days. Got a full-on experience of that solar flash, and many people received that right after I had that. So I saw it rippling through the collective consciousness, being anchored again as a possibility. We're dealing with infinite possibilities. So the probability was already there, but the possibility of a lot of people this year having that experience rippled out through at least my immediate friends, if not a huge part of the collective, having that experience of a complete collapse of the lower self and the lower realities, complete 0 point, being completely recoded, and then coming out of the experience going, just so you know, that's what it's like. That's what the collective solar flashing activity is going to be like. And it trains you in that moment you have to be completely calm, completely let go, let it happen, because in that moment you feel like, oh my goodness, this is it. It feels like nothing else. That's the thing. Like, we've all had very strong activations, but it feels like, oh my gosh, this is the moment, capital THE. This is the moment that I'm there. I'm being transformed. You feel it. And yet there's no lower consciousness to freak out. The body, if you can, all of us have been, calming the body vehicle and getting it more crystalline so that it can accept that, and you parent the body through it, and all of a sudden the body dissolves, lower self dissolves, and all you feel is the complete oneness, stillness, and then the solar light, the solar frequency just overwhelms all of your realities. You just become that light, and then we slowly came out of it. It lasted like 20 minutes, and then you came out of it like, oh my goodness. And it's training like any other activation. All right, now you've been completely recoded. We're going to hold on to that all year, right? And continually work with it. And then the sun gets recoded, and all these light levels start coming in so that you can be a receptor and a conduit, a transmitter of that frequency of light and that experience. So I am very excited about what's happening right now. I don't want to say what's coming, because you can't wait until solstice.
Right.
It's something that's happening now. It's already in the field. It's stepping up, and it's just reminding us too, as it gets more intense, really got to keep everything clean, clear, aligned, like really your highest choice in the moment is the thing, like really staying balanced and on path.
Yes, and that is why many are feeling like you've heard, like just to step back or pull back, or I don't want to say go into hibernation, but it's almost time to come to provide ourselves that space to surrender that lower self. It's the lower self that's, we could call this the ego, right? Where that is keeping us in a distortion that blocks us from seeing this higher light. So, what was that like for you? Can you share as you began to surrender your lower self? How did that ego fight you?
It wasn't it wasn't the ego, it was more emotions. For me,
Ah,
in my experience, like the ego took a hike a while ago.
all right.
So it's, whenever it wants to rear its head, it just gets dismissed. It's just like,
All
oh, honey,
right.
no.
Okay.
And it just, and the ego, it's still like, well, what about, being visible, and you got to help, and you got to be out there, and you got to provide. It's like, oh my gosh, we've done enough. There's and we're going to express in a brand new way. So shush, shush, shush. But in that moment, I mean, there was no ego, there was no lower self. The only thing I felt was the emotional field being kind of uh, purified. It's just like the fear level just went bye bye. And it was just, there was one moment where I felt like through the body, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to disappear, and then it just dissolved in that light. I just took a breath. I was like, okay, body, allow this. And that's happened consistently. I have to say, there's been so many moments where the body has reacted, or the emotional body has reacted like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be the same. Oh my gosh, and we've received these consistent messages this year, like nothing is going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. Everything has changed again, and and over, we
Right.
just keep leveling up this year.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like a fleeting, weird emotional or thought form, like floating off in the distance somewhere, like way in
Mm.
the subconscious. And I just kind of watched it
Mm-hmm.
be, like, again, be dissolved.
Yeah.
And then you come back into the body. And of course, the body memorizes whatever our subconscious and our habitual patterns are. So we're always going, no, we're not doing that. Let's go over here. No, we're not doing that. Let's go over here. Kind of mixing up the pattern, or reinforcing the pattern that we want the body to follow, because the body will walk through a whole day just sleepwalking. It doesn't need your conscious activity at all. It's learned whatever you've given it over the years, so it can just like walk through a whole day like whatever, same. You don't even have to be conscious until you awaken, and you steer the body like, no, we're not going over there. No, we're not playing with that anymore. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people finding the old patterns, social media
Mm.
or whatever, just not just distasteful, but just like, ugh, it's not that it feels bad. It
Right.
just feels unnecessary. It
Yeah.
just feels like blah, 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 whatever. It's just, you become kind of bored, I guess, with the same thing. And I'm finding that with myself as well.
I think a lot of
Like
us
you
are,
try to
yeah.
infuse like your social media with as much assistance as possible, because everybody's coming up the ranks at different levels, and there's still the the divine guidance of being a facilitator, a teacher, a guide
Yeah.
through this process. But I find everything is shifting. Like next year, wide open.
Wow.
That's why
Yeah.
I've said, like,
I know.
don't count on me for anything. I told Loren just a couple days ago, hey, I'm not doing any telesummits next year.
And
like,
my show is changing. My show is changing. There's like the old pull the plug and just twirl that cord and reboot.
Yeah.
That feels like big, big, big. It's really amazing. I got the hit to deactivate my Facebook. I don't even want it. It's very interesting. And maybe I can start it anew from a new energetic, but I just think it just feels so old and stale. And I don't know if it could, I don't know, who knows, but that's part of the shift that we're talking about. We don't want to do things in the old way anymore, and it must come from a higher vibration. So what you did for us today, I'm still feeling that frequency in my heart, and actually now I'm speaking with it. Can you imagine, Sandra, if everyone holds that frequency and speaks this frequency and comes from that perspective? This is the embodiment and the conduit of that frequency, the radiance of it. That's really important right now. And I think that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah. I guess we just have to pay attention to what distracts us still from that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can hold the field and still interact with people online. It's just, you have to pay attention to the way it makes you feel. So there's nothing wrong with unplugging all that stuff, even during the gates. Just like eliminate all distractions, right? Like you can't even get a hold of me, kind of thing.
I'm going to do that,
which is beautiful. Oh my gosh, feel into that. Like no one can get a hold of me via the internet. It just feels so lovely, right?
No responsibility.
And of course, I'll hire somebody to answer, anybody who's in my classes. Don't worry, you won't be abandoned.
Customer service. Yeah, sure.
Somebody else to handle the emails. It's only a month. Oh my goodness, it's only a month. And how beautiful to be able to invite natural, organic communication with the people that are closest to you and the people who know how to reach you and the people who know how to use the heart phone instead of the cell phone. It's just, I completely invite that. And for a lot of us, I mean, social media is just Facebook in particular. There's a lot of family members and friends and stuff that if you drop off Facebook, they're really not paying attention to a lot of your conversation or not seeing it at all because of the algorithms now. But
I can't keep up
you
with
drop
it.
off and they're like, oh, did you unfriend me? Like, what's happening? It's like, just let it be. It's only a month. And then, you turn, if you even need it next year,
I don't
you
think
can
the
always
world
turn it back
needs
on and it's all there. You just deactivate your account.
Just deactivate
right?
it. Yeah.
The second you put your name back in, Facebook remembers you. So you don't have to worry about any of that. And if it wipes it all away, hallelujah. How lovely, how freeing to just wipe all that away and have no attachment to it. For those of you who have walked the path as I have and have given everything away time and time again, had that experience of like, give everything away, walk away from it all, throw caution to the wind, live directly from the heart in the middle of whatever. Those of you who have had that experience and dealt with the emotions that come with that and oh my goodness, am I going to be okay? And living on faith and living on love. Those of you who have had that experience and come back from that experience at a higher level going, oh, okay, I now understand what I need to do in order to, create abundance again. You give it away, you walk back into it. It's flow. It's this consistent flow of whatever you need in the moment comes to you, whatever is in divine alignment comes to you, and then whatever's out of alignment will go, right? That's the flow that we need to work with. And for a lot of people, that's the challenge. Like hitting the delete key a lot of the time is can give you a very simplified experience of what it's like to shut it down, to walk away, to get into that stop, that full stop.
Mm.
I kind of
Yes.
love it.
I
I
think
love
we're
it. I'm
feeling
just like,
it.
oh, that's
Yeah.
going to be great. And you can
Yes.
feel like and of course, this year has given us many versions of that.
Right.
And for a lot of us, I was like, wow, that was really freeing. We talk about the freedom codes that were activated over a year ago
Yeah.
and how those were going to, again, shake loose the collective. A lot of people freed from situations they didn't like, freed
Yes.
from
Mm-hmm.
jobs they didn't like, freed from the confronting their fears about what happens if I lose this, and people who had their identity attached to jobs or money or relationships or whatever got to deal with that too. A lot of collective clearing going on through all of this, but it did provide that element of freedom. Like, oh, okay, now in the moment I am free to choose a solution. Or okay, all earlier in the year, all the live events canceled, right? Okay. It felt really good for me personally. I was just like, oh, okay, now we're free to, create at the quantum level, which is what we were doing on the 12-12 last year. We're creating at the quantum level, and it was like, oh my goodness, that was a very intense live event. And I'm like, well, now we're just going to do it from the quantum realm, from the unified field. It's really training us how to be creative with the new earth energies. But those freedom codes are there for you to use. They're yours. You take them back and you apply that to your free will choice for, all of us examining what are the things I really want to do now that we're free from the old system. Now that you're free from that, because we're watching it collapse. It's collapsing, obviously, dismantling all year long.
Mm-hmm.
As it dismantles, it's not our job. Again, I've been saying this for years. Don't watch it burn. Get on with the new thing, because the
Mm-hmm.
dismantling happens rather quickly. And it can look like, oh my gosh, it's been a year. It's been decades, people. But but it's just amplified because everything's speeding up, right? Everything's accelerating. So the more things become amplified, crazy, chaotic, or whatever, you put your heart with your pure intent on the higher solutions, higher creations. What reality would you like to experience? When you put your focus there and you ignore all the people going, you have to be down here in the fray or you're not real. It's like, what? I'm there and I'm up here. We're everywhere. It's just like, it's all of your expressions are one. So when you kind of step out of the vibrational bandwidth of the fray, well, you get a different experience. And the only way you're going to be able to hold that higher frequency is because you've done the work. So and that's part of the revelation too. A lot of people getting the personal revelation, like, oh, I thought it was so high vibe and I'm completely collapsing this year, depressed, out of it, hateful, whatever, and you get that, there's no, as the veils lift, there's no faking a higher vibration, it's revelation. And we treat it with unconditional love. You don't point fingers at the other fractals going, bad, good, not having it, whatever. That's not what it's about. The the judgment game is not where it's at. It's the balance. It's the neutrality. It's the unconditional love. Being able to love, send that love frequency out to the dismantling, and go, highest interest of all
Mhm.
concern. Let's just love it up, love it up. Come on, everybody. Coming out of it, witnessing your dark side. Okay, that's great. Saw it, witnessed it, made a higher choice. We're done. Saw it, witnessed it, made a higher choice. We're done. That's what we're doing as a collective.
Mm. Yeah, see it, witness, do a
Yeah.
higher choice.
Yeah. And there is a detached compassion, but it's not completely detached from, it's not a judgmental detachment of like, that's a bad thing, I want to run away from it as far as I can. It's not like that. It's just witnessing distortion and going,
Ah,
okay, let's Christ that up to, crystallize it and surround it in love and send it back to its creator and all the way back to source as a pure divine love. Just transmuting it gently, allowing the higher levels, the oversoul levels, the source levels to take care of it. And that's where miracles really come into play. Anyone who's trying to align with their sacred skill of creating the miraculous, you are completely out of the way as a Christed conduit. And then the realities kind of self-correct in alignment with whatever source, divine will, and divine love desire in the moment.
yes. That's beautiful because I know so many, when we look out at the world, we want to try to fix it. We want to try to
Mhm.
help save the earth, save the environment. And what we're doing is, instead of being that victim, it's really becoming an empowered use of
Very.
our energy and our love.
Mhm.
And that's doing a
Yeah.
lot. So thank you for explaining it. It really is this inner work first that will change on the collective.
Yeah, and we've done it. The inner work
Yay.
for a lot of us, I'm just speaking to the high vibe tribe, we have a job. That was our job, to
Yeah.
get over ourselves as individual creations and start unifying and going fully into unity consciousness as this uh, purified frequency that we are, our pure light signature, that there's nothing here but love. And when you embody that, and then you
Mm.
transcend that embodiment and go into the Christed state, which a lot of us are taking on this year. And I feel that light wave that we're getting into now is giving us a pure experience of that. And of course, it all comes in phases. And we're also busting apart all of the kind of stereotypes of what the Christ is and what it isn't. There's a whole lot of religious flotsam and dogma that you have to transcend as well. And again, just keep walking the path, uh, and it does it transforms us, and we're going to have palpable things that people can see. Of course, the sparkly skin is just the beginning of it, but people will actually be able to feel the new energy coming right through you, because your heart center acts like a sun, right? You're the walking sons and daughters of God on the planet. And then it makes us stronger transformers of distortion, which is like a natural function is of divine love. Is it it self-corrects, it auto-corrects distortions. Anything that's misaligned gets realigned and perfected, either returned back to its creator or returned back to source completely. But when we unify with that collective intent of transmuting and transforming, raising the vibration, raising the collective, all willing hearts, again, honoring free will for whatever you want your experience to be, honoring all willing hearts that are choosing to experience self-realization, ascension, divine love, and the Christed state, full support for your journey in this now. And that's happening with this unity meditations, with these collective activations, our collective unified intent. Again, the whole two or more dynamic, becoming a conduit of source, right?
Mhm.
That's what happens, is all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, that's really happening. I'm finding like four or more is quite powerful right now, as far as get-togethers in the physical. And again,
Our
you have to look at it
foundation.
from the higher perspective of like, yeah, there's a reason why people are being kind of pushed apart or separated or whatever. And it's just so that you can make a choice.
Uh-huh.
And it's, again, from divine neutrality, you make better choices. You don't get roped into dualistic arguments or fighting or creating malevolence or negativity for no good reason, or for any reason, I should say. Um, it just doesn't cross your field. And again, when the ninth strand of DNA that's responsible for, hey, no more distortion, once you get that activated in your field and really play with it and interact with it, you can't create distortion any longer. That's mastery. That's your mastery strands coming on. And you'll notice it before, when everyone else is having a knee-jerk reaction or a polarized reaction to conversations or judgments, or he said, she said, or he's better, or she's better, or that person's wrong, or whatever. You have no desire to interact with those conversations or fuel the fire or give your opinion. Like, you just kind of walk away.
Okay.
You provide blessings and love to that and go, that's none of my business anymore. And you become a stronger conduit of creativity that's in alignment with the divine.
Yes.
And then it's easy to clean up oceans, to clean the sky, to overwhelm, overwrite, override any negative frequency, because you're holding such a higher frequency. Again, it changes the lower vibration, corrects the distortion, and absorbs it into the higher level of light.
Ah, that is the journey that we are on. Sandra Walter is here sharing this information with all of us. And we are adapting today. Usually we have an after party, but we're just going to go a little few more minutes here and have our after party right now. We've got some people in our Zoom room, so we can have some questions that way. So as our attendees there queue up for questions, I do just want to share a special offer that you've created here with us here on our platform. And it's from some teachings from the new stargates that are available, the protocols for first contact, and the crystalline DNA. These are beautiful courses. It's like over 6 hours right there, that if you are interested, that is available, and you can take a look at that on our page. Sandra, did you want to share anything about those? Those are courses that we did together.
Yeah, and when you were asking me, like, okay, what combination is good for right now, I was just like, oh, good. Let's do first contact, because that was actually gave people the experience of contact, like shortly after we had that workshop. Was really cool. Still applicable if you would like to connect with higher realms in your galactics in a clear and palpable way. The DNA, the crystalline DNA workshop that we did really gave people a sense of what their DNA feels like when it's being activated, and really put people into that 0 point stillness too with the exercise that we did. So that was beautiful. And then what's the third one that we've got?
Crystalline DNA.
Crystalline DNA and first contact.
Oh, and the Stargates. The Stargates.
Oh my gosh, the Stargate class.
That was powerful.
Okay, so the Stargate class for people who are working with the grids and gates or want to, super clear step by step how to in that class. So that's like a triple whammy. All
Yes.
things good. Oh, great.
Good
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
to
That's
play with
lovely.
there. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you
Oh,
know what?
hey,
Yeah,
I have my internet is back.
you are.
So
I see you
if you want
there.
to,
I see you on
can
Zoom
you see
now.
me?
So what we'll
Oh,
do is
okay, great.
we are closing our conversation now on our live stream, but we will do a quick little after party because there are some
Oh,
people
great.
who are looking forward to that. So that's all good. Well, thank you for that. If you'd like, if those listening want to join our after party, there's links to that. It's just a real quick. If you purchase Sandra's special offer, you of course get a ticket to that. Check your email. You'll get an immediate ticket with that Zoom link, or you can join us as well. We just hang out for a few more minutes and share with Sandra, and we are here. So, Sandra, thank you for this live stream. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, we adapt, and it's been fun adapting with you today,
Mm.
Sandra.
Yes, lovely and blessings, everyone. Just really hold that light high.
Hold that light high. Okay, beautiful. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here. We hope that you've enjoyed this, and we hope that you're still playing that frequency, holding the frequency that we experienced today, holding it within your heart and radiating it out to the world. Sandra, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Namaste.